Today we'll be speaking with Nicholas Anderson, who is the author of NOC, British Secret Operations, and today's topic that we'll be discussing is stem cell transplantation. So Nicholas, what can you tell us about stem cell transplantation?
Yes, well, I really don't want to state on here what diseases and cancers it is applicable to get people's hopes up, because I'm not a medical doctor or scientist. I'm the intelligence officer that oversaw the exfiltration defection in the mid-70s of the world's most foremost, perhaps first ever medical examiner of stem cell transplantation methods. Looking in hindsight over the last 35 years at its development since, I'm quite proud of my involvement, but again, can only comment on it non-medically, but purely from the outside looking in, though I can, within reason, speak from knowledge from what I've seen, and a lot of it will jolt the religiously inclined or the puritanical, I admit that, because there's an assumption that one's beliefs are universally correct, and I don't subscribe to that because I don't know. For me, everything starts with a blank white page, and I then fill in everything as I go along. Anyway, stem cells are, of course, human and animal organisms derived from embryonic and non-embryonic tissues that can renew themselves in other people's bodies. Translated, that means sometimes aborted fetal tissue is recycled. Now, a lot of people have an image that there's some kind of factory and banks of this going on and in a production line, but it really is coming from, or originally coming from, truly aborted fetal tissue that would have been thrown away. And back in the early days of the Soviet Union, they actually experimented upon them, and it come to where it is today. I'm only a person opening the door to your mind. I don't really know all about it, but suggest that hopefully listeners would speak to their open-minded medical advisor and or do your own research into it. For the most basic information on the subject and the story behind the story of how the leading developer of stem cell research came from the Soviet Union to the West, then that's covered in my book.
Right, so it was kind of like a collapse of the Soviet Union, the end of the Cold War, sort of way of you coming across this information where there was a doctor who could just very well be considered to be a scientist in this area, I assume, who knew enough that the West wanted to know what he knew. Is that correct?
Well, not quite like that, no? Joseph. Your time span is out. He defected from the Soviet Union to the West in the mid-70s. And the West, the UK and the US basically milked him for all the information he could give them and did nothing with it. And his story is that when the Soviet Union collapsed and communism collapsed, he then went back to into the new Russia and started again. So it's in that order.
I see. So then, do you know much about what it is that he's been able to do with that practice? I mean, is their medicine superior to the West in terms of advancement in that area?
In this particular area, it's advanced over the West, I would say. Or now the West has got its information from them. If I may say it in non-medical language for easier understanding, it's like somebody's battery has run low, close to not functioning anymore, and a new replacement battery was inserted, and the body part in question starts to function again. It doesn't always last in perpetuity, but it has to be recharged again in the near future to different degrees. It does offer certain areas of terminal and non-terminally ill a chance to survive and last longer, but again, I refer that to a medical advisor, hopefully more open-minded one, about going to the next level for anybody.
Yeah, I'm sure that anybody who sees something where they say, oh, you know, this is about stem cell transplantation, they probably know, you know, a cursory bit about what it's for. They know that it's obviously taking, you know, stem cells and transplanting them to give them the opportunity to grow into whatever tissue it is that they're being transplanted into, so that if you needed to partially regenerate an organ, whether it's a liver or heart tissue or whatever, that it can be done more or less naturally. I think that they've had pretty good advancements in being able to use your own stem cells from different parts of your body to regenerate in other parts of your body. At least that's what my understanding is, the latest state of the art of it is. But it would be interesting to whether or not there might exist any sort of medical tourism in Russia for people who are interested in doing that.
Well, if I may point out that one of the problems or hurdle for stem cell transplantation is that it is not patentable. It's actually proprietary. So that in large corporate world, they don't know how to get around that just yet.
Well,
it's an interesting point.
Yeah, hopefully they won't be patenting it. That way it'll keep competition high, because if somebody claims a patent for it, well then you know, the development of whatever it is tends to grow rather slowly when there's one party who holds the key to doing it. So hopefully it doesn't become patented. So was there anything else?
Well, on this subject, please understand that what I wrote about was in 1995, largely based on events that took place in the mid-70s and during 1992-93. So a lot has happened since, I'm pleased to say, but I did my bit because I was the person who brought him out. So
right, and this was your book is a fictional account based on real events. Yes,
that's correct. Yes. Okay. I'm actually not allowed to tell the truth, as you can imagine.
Well, you're not allowed
to. The next best thing.
Yes, you're not allowed to be a reporter in the sense that you're accounting things like a documentary, but it's perfectly okay to have a fictional license and tell the story however you like.
That's right.
As long as it's labeled fiction, yes.
That's correct.
Okay, great.
And certain people will be able to read between the lines.
Well, hopefully there will be something that people can pick up reading between the lines in your book about this particular topic. Is there a good amount that's devoted to this topic in the book?
It goes backward and forward to this subject and this issue all the way through it, yes.
Very interesting. I imagine that it'll be a very fascinating read for somebody who is interested in this subject then.
Well, I also, of course, had to throw in a lot about myself and other adventurers and other intelligence officers to pad out the whole story, yes.
Of course, yes. Now, if somebody wanted to get more information on yourself and about the book and the different iterations of your books that you're writing on your subject, which you're an expert, they would go to nicholasanderson.info. Is there anything else that we wanted to cover before we wrap up the subject?
Well, I could say a lot more. We were talking before on a related topic about placebo,
Yes.
And I've thought about it a little bit more, and my personal view is that for most clinical trials you need double-blind tests when neither the patient or the doctor knows who's getting the placebo and who doesn't. And I think that's the problem with the way the West and our medical system is at the moment. It's kind of been blocked by this issue, including stem cell transplantation is related to that. So that's my only little addition I can say now.
Okay, well, very good. I'm glad that those things tie in together. So that should definitely be, you know, something that I think that you probably cover that a bit more in detail. Probably some examples of how that plays out in your book. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, again, the website that you can go to get information about Nicholas Anderson, and also about his book and books, and his other projects that he's working on, you can go to nicholasanderson.info. Thank you very much for your time today, Nicholas.
And thank you too.